All right, I got no idea what's going on here. Sorry, somebody just delivered a package. But we got Star Citizen Live, Q&A, contested zones, and asteroid bases. While I was playing Death Stranding today, people were saying it was good, a good episode, it was a bad episode, I'll like it, I won't like it. So let's see what it ends up being. We'll give it a go. I'm not going to pause very much. It's very late in the day. It's already an hour-long episode. These usually end up 2 hours with me. I'm going to try to do my best to have it not be. So here we go. Any Xers to doubt? Oh, and I will be eating to start this episode because it's so late. I'm starving. So I have some soup, so I'll be making as little noise as possible.
Welcome to another episode of Star Citizen Live. I'm your host, Jared Huckabee. What did we call this week's show? Q&A, contested zones and asteroid zones. Contested zones and asteroid bases. I let David do the typing on this week, so I didn't do it myself. I didn't know. If you've never seen Star Citizen Live before, it's an absolute train wreck at the end of our week. What a nice guy. Where we take a handful of our developers, we ask them to stay late, especially if they're in Germany, and take a little bit of their time to answer questions from you, the Star Citizen player. As usual, we put up a thread up on Spectrum earlier in the week where we collected your questions. You got to vote on which ones you wanted to see answered most, and then our guests this week went through the questions, picked the ones that were appropriate for their
I'm glad that they do
areas
that now.
of expertise and work, and we're here to talk about them.
That they straight up. Sorry, I thought we were going power outage again. That they straight up pick the questions that they're willing to answer, that they know they can answer,
now,
stuff like that.
Before we get
they don't
to
always
that,
answer it the way we want to hear it, but
esteemed group of Frankfurt level designers.
Already paused.
Level designs. You're all level designers. Told you it was a train wreck.
I mean, I could talk over the intros.
Con. Hey, Con, tell everybody who you are and what you do for Star Citizen.
Hey guys, I'm Khan, lead level designer for Star Citizen.
Take the easy ones. Well, the easy ones are the ones that can answer.
What does a lead level designer do?
A lead level designer manages a lead, not a lead, a team of level designers, and work through new initiatives like the contested zones and asteroid stations.
How often is there an annoying American in the office that just does the William Shatner bit with your name?
Quite often, but I think the last name is a bit more difficult.
Yeah, I've already used up my swear, so I'm not even going to take a try at the second name. John, tell everybody who you are and what you do for Star Citizen.
Hi, I'm John. I'm a level designer too, and I tend to do whatever Khan tells me because he's my boss.
What makes it a level designer 2?
I did a good enough job as level designer 1.
Fair enough.
Is that quantifiable? Is that on paper somewhere?
I mean, obviously there are criteria for promotions, and yeah, I was level designer 1 for a couple of years and gained enough experience to earn that promotion. So I'm a level designer 2 now.
Okay. And last, Manuel, tell everybody who you are and what you do for Star Citizen.
Hey, I'm Manuel. I'm a senior level designer, and yeah, last I did the implementation
The elevators.
for the personal
It's that guy.
hangars, or the player hangars. But you might also know me from Area 18, Prison, and some other things, and soon asteroid bases.
People might know you from prison. Sounds like a story.
I mean, maybe you've seen me there.
Oh, you mean Kleischer?
Yes.
Oh. Senior level designer 2.
You can't hear anything? He's low.
Which one's where?
Yeah, I'm 2 steps below John.
Okay. Just
The other way around.
I don't know. No, none that it matters. You guys are. I was in the Frankfurt office to film for this episode a few weeks ago, and you guys have a very collaborative and work environment here, where you were always over at one person's desk or another person's desk, helping each other out. Even during the interviews, some of you sat next to each other during the interviews and helped each other out with the answers and stuff. So, I make a joke about level and everything, but you guys are clearly a very tight-knit team. Plus, we did that neat ISC even earlier in the season, where we got to meet the team here while you were visiting and talk more about your work and stuff. So, you guys have shown, I think, that you guys are all pretty like this. Maybe
Yeah,
I'm imagining it.
And unlike John, I only do sometimes what Khan wants me to do.
Yeah,
That's the benefit of climbing those ranks. You can start to do your own thing.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. So
exactly.
we've collected some questions from the backers. Let's go ahead and jump right in. These are in no particular orders. These are going to bounce. Our two main topics for this week's show are the new asteroid bases and the encounters within that are scheduled to come for the upcoming Alpha 4.0, and the new contested zones, which are the PvE kind of almost. We hesitate to use the word dungeon experience. It's the closest analogous term to other games, but it's not quite accurate for us, that are within the Pyro space stations. And then we'll jump into some generic level design
What is the
stuff.
name? What is it?
First question off the bat
In the
says,
division, the
what's
dark
the
zone?
plan
That's what everyone said.
for all the new locations so that they do not end up being quote unquote boring bunkers with the same missions on a loop over and over and over again?
Who wants to do the honors?
They will be.
I guess I do it, and starting with the asteroid base bit. I mean, asteroid bases are a bit like bunkers 2.0, more or less like a development. It's in the sense of it's a more condensed space, but
What game have you played that has a mission system that isn't repetitive? Right? Or at least somewhat repetitive. I think I'm playing Death Stranding right now. Does Minecraft have a mission system where like you're constantly going to NPCs all the time? Rebel Galaxy is absolutely repetitive. Right? WoW's repetitive. Every MMO I'm playing is repetitive. RuneScape's missions weren't repetitive. Each one was unique. You might have to help me out with RuneScape. My brother played RuneScape. I watched him play RuneScape. I do not mean tedious. Well, tedium is part of it, but many MMO quests and missions are kill quests and fetch quests, and a variety of those. We actually have a decent variety of fetch quests and kill quests in Star Citizen. They're kind of have some variety to them, right? What we don't have too many of are puzzles, a combination of the two, right? Things like that. There are ways to build it up a little bit, but again, it's something that, again, I'm going to keep going back to what Elliot said on SCL, is missions are kind of like the new player experience, the storytelling. You might do a quest to get rep for a certain faction because it benefits you in some way, things like that. But hopefully the experience, especially at contested zones, is because it's a sandbox experience. It's between different players, right? So
we try to segment them a bit more, like in different categories in this regard. Like also,
but most MMOs
encounter
are pretty
design, like
repetitive.
encounter asteroid bases that we have,
there's a reason
or
to do
that we
them.
plan for, covering more like sandbox mission-y designs. Then we want to have more explorative ones, and then also contested ones that tie more into the contested zone experience that Khan and John are working on. But yeah, we try to cover more different gameplay types, more different player interests, or player interests in certain game mechanics or types. So yeah.
Can you give us an example of something? I don't want to go through every aspect of the experience. We just did an ISC on it, but can you give me an example of something that players will do in asteroid bases specifically?
I mean, if you go to one of the encounter asteroid bases,
different.
you can find bodies. You can kill X amount of guys. That's
The
more like
same
for the
shit.
mission ones, but they will always be populated, so you don't need a mission to go there. You can just go there and check it out yourself. But these are more like the playground for missions. But you can also find other ones that are inhabited, and you can just explore and do puzzles in them. At least that's the plan going ahead.
Okay.
And certain
The puzzle
kinds of
part is what's
puzzles
interesting.
and treasures to be found.
Yes.
Okay.
With contested zones, because these open areas, what's being done to avoid bottlenecks and other obvious camping spots that negatively impact the player experience?
I guess I should go for that one, John, right?
You
Yeah, so
both
we
can
are
go.
okay. We're looking for multiple entry points, like establishing multiple entry points that can come from the interior, but also from the exterior of the station, so that you just don't have one bottleneck. I mean, I guess you kind of spread the options out a bit. We can't fully eliminate the possibility of this, but at least giving players the option and giving them some sense of opportunities in and around the station to enter this contested zone will definitely help it out.
Yeah, exactly. I think whenever you have an entrance into a place like this where PvP is possible, it naturally creates a bottleneck.
Yep.
You have to be able to enter the space, and there could be people camping that space waiting for you to enter. So what we can do as designers is try and offer alternate paths in, as Khan said. There are side elevators. There are ways in from the exterior of the station. So we're just trying to provide as many different opportunities to enter that space so that it's more difficult to, use those bottlenecks if you are of a griefing mindset.
Yeah. What's also important is that there's like exfiltration
camping
points
griefing?
inside these contested zones. So if you hit a specific depth of the contested zone, you can get to a part that offers you a one-way exit that brings you
I don't
to
think
the
camping's
social area.
griefing.
So back to practical safety.
Interesting. And you're talking about things that we can do to battle or defeat the bottlenecks and stuff, the camping and stuff like this. But some aspect of that is intentional. Some aspect of that is not a bug; it's a feature. These are still intended to be PvP zones. They are intended to still have a certain level of friction. The balance in all of this is in finding the right level of friction, not eliminating all the friction altogether.
Yeah, that's a tough part of designing a map like this. Definitely.
Yeah,
Finding the right
ultimately,
balance.
yeah, ultimately it is a PvP space, and griefing, unfortunately, is something you try to design against. But this is a kind of a whole philosophical debate we could get into about griefing versus PvP. But griefing is just PvP ultimately. At the end of the day, there's technically nothing wrong with someone finding a defensible position and using that as an advantage over another player. And that aspect of being on the defensive in the PvP kind of equation is you dealing with those kind of bottlenecks and those camping positions.
Putting developers on screen sometimes is not a good idea. They had time to think about this one. PvP is not griefing. People are going to take what he said totally wrong. That's not what he's saying. He's saying that if you're camping a situation and killing someone, right? Like if you're camping, it's not the intended design for them, right? Griefing is just PvP. Griefing is under the PvP umbrella, most likely, but there's other ways of griefing. Are you PvPing if you're blocking an entryway for somebody to get in? Not really, right? You're just an asshole. If you're, is it PvP if you're, I don't know, slamming your ship into someone else's? I don't consider that PvP, right? So he's using just a word that people are going to grab onto, latch onto, try to make him look stupid, try to make the game look stupid, try to use it for their own advantages, like the griefers that we have that are just absolutely, super power social, super insane, like doing some just like ridiculous shit. They're just going to probably say, well, the CIG devs said griefing's just PvP anyway, so yeah. Everyone's going to use this, but in reality,
how do you approach
it doesn't mean anything. They just don't want people camping, but they can't prevent it. That's all he's saying.
a room? Do you breach the room? Do you use like grenades to flush out a room before you enter it? Scouting opportunities. And there are things we can do as designers to kind of aid that as well, with like cover placement and lighting and things like that can
exactly
alleviate these issues. But ultimately, you can't get rid of them, and you probably shouldn't, because ultimately this is Pyro and this is a PvP space as well as PvE.
Yeah.
So
It's
I
also
think,
part of opting in, right? It's just like
Yeah.
you want to do PvP. And then, I mean, that can also spark like new things. Imagine like back then in the days in WoW Classic, right? When Crossroads was raided. And then suddenly you try to ally with some friends or like people and just like try to push back on things. And I think that can be really interesting.
Yeah, yeah. We obviously do want to. This is not the place to do a giant griefing versus PvP discussion. We've actually done that on SCL a number of times. But ultimately, just because I can already see the chat now. Hi, Twitch chat, and I can already imagine the YouTube comments later. At the end of the day, I think a baseline here is
While Jared's
that
talking, I'm going to grab a drink. I'll be right back.
there has to be an alternative. There has to be a solution available to the player who's being attacked in order to turn the tables. When there's not a solution, when there's not an option that's accessible to that player to continue to go on and have a good experience, to continue to do the things that they want to do, that's when PvP turns to griefing. When you take away the gameplay experience, not just make it difficult. That's PvP. But it's a fine line, and I think you sit here. We could march a parade of 500 developers in front of this camera, and you'd probably hear a solid 400 different answers about what that is. So for those of you who are already working up your YouTube videos and stuff, saying CIG says this or CIG says that, that's not what's happened now. We're hearing a couple people express some individual opinions on what the difference is, and again, I promise if you brought 400 people in here, you get 300 different answers. So it's, at the end of the day, it's about our job here in this situation. This is me where I'll put on the CIG hat and speak on behalf of CIG here. Our job in those situations is to find alternatives for the players who are suffering at the hands of PvP. Find ways that they can counter it, provide ways that they can counter it, provide alternatives that still provide the same experience, other places where they can go, other things like turrets and things like factions, that NPC factions that can come in and help defend, to find the things that can help.
Stop. This is the shit we need to stop doing, myself included. We're taking a phrase. We're taking a word, and we're honing in on it to try to make them look stupid. He's trying to protect the developer who just said something that literally just means we would rather not people camp, but we can't protect them from camping. And then he said it in a really, really dumb way. Jared's trying to take the heat for that and protect him. And he said something stupid again. Okay, these guys, communication is bad, right? But we know what the goal of what he's saying is that we want to give you the tools to protect yourself from PvPers. And yes, if you are somebody who doesn't want to be in a PvP situation and you end up in one, you do suffer the consequences of that. You do suffer PvP, right? So it's not like the worst phrase in the world. Let's not focus on everything that they say and try to get our grips into it and be like, this is bad. They definitely are just saying that it's a multiplayer game. Players who want to avoid PvP or want to avoid being killed instead, like I'm a cargo hauler, I'm not really trying to avoid PvP necessarily. I'm trying to not be killed while I have cargo, right? I'm trying to not be killed while I'm mining. I'm trying to not be killed while I'm salvaging, right? It's like, I think it ends up making us, like just generally myself, my community, but us as the Star Citizen community, look really stupid. And let's be honest here. These guys, not the developers necessarily, but I've seen it from community management side. I've seen it from Jared. They can't handle the negativity of the internet. They can't handle it anymore. Maybe they could for a while. Maybe they're over it, so on and so forth. If we're going to get anywhere with these people, we can't do the honing in on one little thing and trying to make them look stupid about it. They do a good enough job about making themselves look stupid every fucking day. We don't need to try to make them look more stupid. Go play the game. They look stupid, right? So it's simple that we just need to try to help make the game better, and we need to ignore this dumb shit that they say all the time. That guess what? It amounts to nothing anyway, right? So it doesn't matter.
A player runs out of options.
This isn't just about you,
And
Tumblr.
the only thing they can do
for
is
everybody,
be killed
you know?
over and over and over again. That's where there's a problem. So
It's on YouTube now. All right, let's use the YouTube
hi,
version
everybody. Welcome.
because it'll look a little bit better and it'll be a little bit easier. I think this is right where we're at, probably.
Things that can help. When a player runs out of options and the only thing they can do is be killed over and over and over again, that's where there's a problem. So
There you go. And that's camping to some extent, but it's your choice to go into the contested zone, so it's whatever. And let's not forget that the level designers don't get to choose the fact that there's a railgun and a grenade launcher in the game. You know what I mean? Like, they put these things in that make corridors, that make choke points excessively bad.
So some friction is intended, but it's all about finding that point. We're talking about contested zones and asteroid bases. How widely spread are these contested zones and asteroid bases around the Pyrus system?
How many are there?
Pyrus system is pretty darn big. So what are we talking about as far as how far these are spread?
What do you got? Okay, I don't know how many people they're planning to have in a system. They don't know because they haven't done any testing. So it better be like 1 or 2 to start, and that's it. That's it.
So currently we are planning for about 5 contested zones, and these
Stupid.
are in a
So
select
stupid.
a few stations,
There's 100 fucking people. What are we gonna do?
all pretty evenly spread along the Pyrus system, with some of them being in very specific places that are only be able to be accessed once you progress to a specific stage, or once you have actually gained a couple items, you can get to that location and unlock the interior, basically. So contested zones might not be immediately accessible to the player. There's some that will require you to complete others to then find the keys to others, basically, or to specific
Complete some to find the keys to others. That's kind of interesting.
branches within these contested zones. So it's a mix and match a bit.
I hope it's fun, but I gotta say, we don't know how many players we're gonna have in a system, and we probably shouldn't design until we know.
Is there any sort
don't
of? Is there anything?
I just worry we're gonna have the spreading out like crazy. Where you remember the drug labs, where we had 1 drug lab and now we have 100.
Intended or planned that would start you in one contested zone and make you go to another contested zone to finish or complete?
Better not be a
Or
mission.
they-
there's
Go ahead.
sorry.
I said, or are they just contained experiences within each one?
So John can explain this a bit better after me, but the intention is that we have contested zones, or we give certain categorization to certain branches or sections of a contested zone. So we have a short-term kind of branch, for example. We have a mid-term and a long-term one. And in the long term, it is a requirement to find specific ingredients in other places to be able to access that long-term branch, right? And whilst short-term or mid-term ones are there to complete the dungeon itself, or basically go in there and do some farm runs or loot runs. Yeah.
Gotcha. So there's not going to be
Sounds like short term and midterm's PvE content, and the long term is the PvP content.
too much advantage at just holding up in one. You're not going to be able to complete the ultimate objectives of these contested zones by just staying put in one place and
that
holding it
won't work.
forever. Okay.
You will have to go to multiple of them and progress.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need to learn more, but here's why I argue that we should only have a few or just one or two, is that contested zones, the content should not be the mission design. The content should not necessarily be the farming. The content should be the other players that you interact with. And in Star Citizen, it's hard to find other players. So that's my argument there. Sorry.
You might do it to take away somebody else's enjoyment, but you won't gain anything as far as the progression for your character and stuff by doing so.
Yeah.
Okay. With asteroid bases,
Progression
will
for
there
your
be
character.
asteroid bases without enemy NPCs or non-violent gameplay as well? For example, scavenging, environmental puzzles, rescue missions, finding missing people.
Let them cook. I've let them cook for fucking 13 years, bro. It's burnt.
Is there something to do in asteroid bases for players who just want to bring peace to the galaxy?
I'm not sure about peace, but but yes, certainly. The current intention and goal we have in developing these is, like, as previously touched on a bit before, the encounter ones are solely the sandbox environment for the whole mission stuff. So people who want to engage in missions and want to engage in combat and do these things. But I also want to have this, like, more safer spaces. I mean, you can't prevent PvP from happening, obviously, but the exploration ones are more dedicated to solving puzzles and finding, like, rewards by entering rooms that are not so obviously, like, enterable, right? Like, you have to do some things, not hack a door, but find means around the space and then get more, like, higher rewards in there.
Okay.
So yes, that's like no NPCs and anything is planned in there.
Manuel, can you give me a big, like, heroic pose, something like this, real quick? There you go. Everybody, screenshot that and with the words "I don't know about peace" underneath that. I'd like to see that on Reddit before the end of the show, please. Are there plans, or does the tool set allow for the creation of non-derelict asteroid bases, whether functional or productive? Like, could they be seen in a system like Stanton, but is abandoned, or inhabited the mooring? Oh, gee, but they're going way into the lore there. The mooring, like Nyx. So basically, can we make asteroid bases that aren't just run down, beat up, abandoned places? Is what they're asking.
I mean, yes. The whole
Not in
concept of
Pyro.
asteroid bases is quite expandable, and it has lots of potential because it's a very small scale and doesn't need that much development time like a big flagship location. It's not for the initial release right now, so we are focusing more on the free archetypes that we are currently looking into. But there's certainly a lot of potential and stuff we would like to do going forward in the future and expanding on social spaces as well.
Okay.
Yeah, one thing when we prototyped these, one aspect that we envisioned was for refueling. Like, instead of needing a large station, you could have these asteroid bases, like, strategically placed around where you could, for example, refuel, rearm. So we definitely envision this.
Does anyone know why I'm upset by hearing that? Does anyone have any idea why I might be upset by hearing that at all? Does anybody go back to, like, 2018? No, it's probably like 2020? They're literally just robbing players of the sandbox by doing this. Fuel isn't hard to get now. Yeah. Exactly. If you mean by fuel is not hard to get in Pyro like it was supposed to be. Ay, man.
This is an expandable
I don't
feature,
understand.
but
Yeah.
it's something we want to do.
In ISC just yesterday, which was about the more social aspects, not the combat stuff. But we mentioned that, the Pyro system is so much bigger than Stanton, that the distances between planets are such that having to strategically figure out where you can stop and refuel along the way just to get to the outer ends of the solar system is a important part. And that's what you just mentioned is a great kind of follow-up thing. I mean, obviously we've been adding to the Stanton system for years and years and years. We'll continue to add to the Pyrus system after the release of 4.0, and that's an easy consideration. You know, oh, well, maybe there's an asteroid base gas station there, and that'll help deal with a stress point along that travel route and stuff.
Yeah, I think that's my...
Yep, let's design everything. Let's take 30 years to do everything instead of designing a ship that players can do to be that gas station. Why not let players do it? It's again, I just don't think they know what they're building. And I think that somebody said pissing in the wind in chat. And yeah, it kind of feels that way. It's I don't think it makes me think that server meshing is not going to deliver in the way that we might want it to or something. Like we're always going to be playing in servers of, 500 people across the whole game or something like that. Like I have no idea. But if we're ever singly sharded, and there's a lot of us playing the game, refueling should absolutely be done by us. It's so odd to me. It's so odd to me that instead of giving us the solution, they keep wanting to handcraft every experience, and make it a location, and make it have an NPC, storyline that does it. It's like the NPCs, man, they have so much more fun than us. It's fucking crazy.
More interesting as well because we have these gigantic stations, but when you travel down the motorway in the middle of nowhere, you hit a little gas station.
We hear Jared and Devs talk about stuff like this. Do you think Rich Tyler would see that as a good permanent solution? I have no idea, man. I have no idea. You have to think that these guys are taking the wishes of those people and repeating them, right?
And I think you have to
assume that's what's happening.
Fun there. There's some different kind of style and aesthetic we could use, a different experience than having to go into a station and everything that comes with that.
And to be fair, Jared did say that we have to be strategic about where we stop so we don't run out of fuel. So that's great. But then they talked about adding more to prevent the bottleneck. It's like, no, leave the bottleneck. Allow us to deal with the problems. When are you going to figure this fucking out, man? When are you going to figure out that we can fill that? We can fill that gap if you just let us.
Yeah. Okay. What else we got? Let's go back to contested zones for a little bit. We talked a little bit about this with sometimes you have the direct route out, but I'm willing to bet there's more here. How will we be able to extract something from the contested zones if people...
Did they fix fueling is not an excuse to argue against my point, which I've seen a few of you do already. That is not an excuse.
Will spawn right next to it and are back in 1 to 2 minutes after we kill them. It sounds super annoying to deal with.
So we obviously have considered that, and
have you?
I'd like to hope so. So the way that the contested zones is, by design, the deeper you go, the better rewards there are to find. And if, for example, you encountered a PvP situation, or you yourself were killed by a PvE encounter, getting back to where you were is not so straightforward. It's not just a case of a 1-2 minute run in. If you were, deep within the contested zone, not to mention that, you'd have to rearm yourself. I mean, you could run in with your suit and a pistol, but will you be able to successfully get back to your body if you don't equip yourself well? And similarly, if in a PvP situation, if you kill someone, you succeed in PvP, you take their stuff, are they going to pop up a minute later? I doubt it. Within the contested zone, not only are there traps, hazards, lots of PvE enemies that will be respawning. So even if you cleared out and your path behind you, they're going to be respawning in like you would see in a typical dungeon. You also have exfiltration routes available to you, as Khan said earlier. So, you could decide that person might be coming back for you again. They might turn up, in 5 minutes, in 10 minutes. They might bring friends. Now's my time to get out. I'm going to head for that exfiltration route, leave, get back to the social space, and, take my loot home. This is something that we obviously want to see play out. We want to see how players, in testing, and if any changes are required, we'll look to do that. But I think the design currently will hopefully avoid that.
Someone in the chat asked if there was a Lightsmith asked, will there be multiple ways in and out? Yes, we mentioned that earlier in the show, Lightsmith. You can watch the replay up on
You
YouTube.
literally just
if you
mentioned it
missed
2 seconds.
that earlier information. You keep
seconds
mentioning
ago.
traps, and this was even during the the filming for the last ISC. Every time you say traps, I keep imagining like a classic Dungeons and Dragons mimic, like a thing that looks like a treasure chest, looks like an item box, and then it explodes
I love that.
and sprays
That would be
gas at
cool.
you and kills you. I don't know if we've got time to squeeze it in, but would you guys, for me, consider some explosive item boxes that
That
look
should
like,
definitely
look,
be a
there's loot
thing.
in there.
I think I can speak for everyone when I say that we would love to develop a whole range of traps and hazards. We are implementing ones that we have currently, like trip mines, explosive canisters, hazard zones, radiation, fire. But
Radiation.
a mimic chest would be amazing.
Yeah, it can't just be. There's nothing you can do about it. Like we got to be able to scan it. There's got to be a way to detect it and stuff and avoid it. You can't just be random. Oh well, I did nothing and blew myself up. But for the people who are in too big a hurry and don't do the due diligence, those people deserve to have a box blow up in their face. Is what I'm
I
saying.
mean,
Agreed.
hey, maybe it's like a weird alien creature, right? And it's taking on the form of a chest.
I was about to
Oh,
say,
that's
like,
one with stream.
yes, have a face hugger, right?
Yep.
Implement something new, and then you die in the next one trying to loot your body. Suddenly it bursts open.
Dave, what do you think
nothing.
what do you think the over under are that I can convince Damien DeVoe to create a mimic, like an actual creature? Maybe, okay. All right. I'm not gonna say it's gonna happen, but it's now my new mission in life, and I don't care about the show, so I'm just gonna go do that. Bye.
Thank you.
What group sizes are contested zones designed around?
Yeah,
Oh, good
you
question.
definitely
actually.
you can do it solo, but we wouldn't recommend that. Like John just said earlier, these are pretty PvP, PvE centric spaces. Even if where there were no players in your vicinity, you'll still face quite the challenge. So our recommendation is to at least go with one friend. We are currently envisioning or in
3 to
our
5?
test at least, we are going in by 5 player groups with a recent test also involving another group. So, but yeah, we're seeing it to be able to scale up to 40 players per dungeon.
Now, you said this isn't the first time you said they can be soloed. Has anybody ever actually? Are you talking about like technically, like the way that the inside of a ship can technically catch fire if the temperature outside?
I don't think he said max. I think he said could scale up to, would be fun maybe.
Is hot enough? You're saying it can technically be done, or has there actually been somebody through testing that has managed to just run through the whole thing by themselves?
Did anyone? I don't think I did. Did you, John?
It's difficult. Initially, in the earlier sections, I think it's doable. It's if you're good enough, it's manageable. But we do scale up like the enemies, the deeper you get, and the intention is that you might need to bring some help.
Sometimes.
But when we get it, the NPCs are going to stand still. They're going to do nothing. They're not going to shoot at you. Everyone's going to be able to 1v1. So let's focus on the PvP. Hopefully the loot's good.
If the AI is broken, you can do it.
Yeah, there you go.
Bad server maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, if the AI is broken, you can do it. He literally answered
A
it.
combination of letters and numbers followed by Ages Inquisitor in the chat says, this cannot be live. It's way too professional. What effing show are you watching?
I mean, I appreciate the compliment. That's,
Thank you. Yeah.
yeah, thank you.
I feel like I'm a nervous mess right now. Okay.
Obviously, we knew that message was going to be sent, and we responded because this is recorded.
John, is that John? John, is that your mom?
I like his sense of humor. He's cool.
Sageous Inquisitor, your mom. Will asteroid bases appear as quantum markers always, or as exploration mission, or is exploration stuff necessary to travel to them?
Lamau.
No, it's they will be always there, always
There's
present
what
for you. I said
exploration,
you
fucking
can also go to them
questioner.
if there's no mission running.
What a
Even
dumb
the
question.
mission sandboxy ones, the encounter asteroid bases, you can travel there without requiring a mission. There will be AI population regardless. It's
Maybe he means like no quantum marker or whatever, right? And they consider going to a website and telling you to jump to OM1, then jump to OM4, and point your ship in this direction and fly for 75 minutes straight is exploration. Then that's
the mission stuff
exploration,
will
I guess.
add on top of that. But all of them you can see from the get-go.
Now-
There might be plans for the future.
That's what I wanted to get at. That's certain. You're speaking about how it is in 4.0 in our initial release. Anybody that can remember the initial release of the PU, the stand system, back in late November, early December 2015, and you look at that version of the stand system versus the version of the stand system you have now. Obviously, these things change. These things grow over time. Pyro will be no different. Even as we
Look at that
continue,
version of
even
the
as we
HUD, it was
continue to
better.
add star system after star system after star system after that, our intention is never to abandon the previous ones. There are new stuff coming to Stanton in 4.0. We haven't gotten to talking about that yet, but it'll be on ISC in a couple weeks. But 4.0 isn't just all Pyro and we forget Stanton. So we're talking about Pyro as it is in 4.0. But obviously, as we continue to introduce more exploration-based ships, everybody knows the Zeus is on the public roadmap coming up here in a future release. One of the
I think we're seeing a lot of radar in the monthly report, and I think that's what Jared's pointing at.
variants for that is an exploration-based stuff. People here are very keen to start developing exploration-based stuff, like discovering transient jump points, finding an asteroid base, or maybe even a derelict space station that nobody's found before and stuff like this. Those stuff will become more prevalent as the footprint gets larger. The footprint of the game gets larger and larger, and we're all very excited to do that. So not in 4.0, but.
No, not yet. But we have lots of ideas internally, and we really would love to expand and iterate on it and more things.
Nice.
Right. Another asteroid base question. So we mentioned that some of the asteroid bases had copians inside. Are these placeholders later to be replaced by more fitting creatures? Oh, this person's calling you out.
Oh,
Apparently
actually,
they
I
don't agree
think
copians should be in asteroid bases. Thoughts?
I think they can make narrative sense in there, right? You can have domesticized copians, right? They bring with
Those
them.
didn't look domesticized.
As far
but
as I
okay.
know, right? We have like
Yeah,
variants.
we
already
actually have a
works.
domesticated variant. Yeah, pet
Yes.
copian basically.
They just look feral right now, so that will be like more fitting looking. But I don't think it's a far stretch
Really?
that they can like narratively be around there. But yeah, I mean, if we have like more fitting creatures as well in the future, that's it. But for now, it's like what we have, what we are working with, right? Is a human.
But okay, and Zach confirmed that they're like getting domestic skins, collars, and stuff, unless they're trolling or something. But the question is, I was shooting them because they were attacking me. Like they were NPCs that I was meant to kill at those locations. So they were asking, like, are you going to replace those with something else? And they're kind of like skirting the question a little bit, which is weird.
NPCs and then the copians. So we try to utilize what we have to create more variety and like more interesting.
Yeah, they're
combat
utilizing what they
with the
have, but
ingredients
they
that
can
we
get
have.
more.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Manu voiced interest to have a space.
Real question is, the real answer is, we tried it out. It was really cool gameplay, and it's kind of worth the sacrifice in believability. Yeah, that's great. I think we get that part, Zach. It's the question is asking, in the future, do you want to replace these with like face huggers? That's literally what they're asking. Let's like just cut to the chase. Are you going to replace them because it would be cool if you did? That's all. I think that's what people want. They want shit fucking crawling on the ceilings and stuff like that, because that's the sci-fi fantasy that they've seen. you know? Maybe not replace, but add. Yeah, sure. That's what people are asking. Whether or not you can answer that question or not, you know, it's like they're asking your wants. They're not asking what you're actually going to do. You know what I mean? So he says we definitely want some more fauna that can fight alongside. That makes sense. Definitely want to do some spooky aliens type stuff. Yeah, replaces TBD. What do we get? When do we get it? Yeah, like who knows? You know. So that's what the question was asking. It was just weird that he went to domesticated because the player wasn't asking about anything domesticated. They were asking about what they were going to fight. So that's why I got weirded out by that question.
Base cow in an asteroid base.
Or that answer, I should say.
Yes.
We don't really talk about it for the
Anything
rest
you
of
can get
the
out of a
season,
cage,
but
right?
the domesticated copians are one of the new aspects that are coming online with 4.0. These are domesticated for NPCs and stuff. We're not stealthily adding
NPCs
pet
get all
gameplay
the
to
fun.
players just yet.
They're attack dogs essentially. We have them in contested zones, and the narrative idea is that they're been breeding them and training them, and they will attack you. So as you engage a group of outlaws,
so they'll attack us, but they look friendly to them. Okay,
there could be a couple of attack copians that they have that are
NPCs
charging
have all
at
the
you,
fun.
which I think provides a really interesting kind of gameplay dynamic. You're not just dealing with human menus now. You also have these fast-moving, low creatures that are attacking your ankles, and it adds a whole new aspect to combat.
And the process of developing copians that react to NPCs. There are entities that they don't attack that are friendly to them, that can issue commands and stuff. This is all a step closer to what I could already see some of you are already thinking, pet and player ownership of stuff. It's not to say that you'll be able to own a copian specifically. It's not to say that you don't.
In like 20 years, I posted it, I closed it, I'm never opening it again.
I know that there has not been a week in the last 3 months where I haven't heard either CR or Rich mention something about we got to get pets in there and stuff. So this is the next step towards that.
All I just said was I want to be an NPC in Star Citizen. They have all the fun.
But yeah, I mean, to go back to what Manuel said, I think as he said, I think we can narratively explain why there are copians on the abandoned asteroid bases. I think it would be a shame to remove them just to lessen the encounter variety. And I definitely agree that it would be cool to get those creatures like the mimic face hugger chest we talked about. These kind of alien creatures that you would expect to see on asteroid bases in the future would be amazing. But for now, I think they do offer something useful.
I said nothing about facehugger. That was all you.
Nope, that's you.
I just wanted a little chest that killed people. I didn't say anything about.
It has to hug your face.
That was.
Yeah, he wanted a chest that just blows gas or explodes. He didn't want anything alien. Thank you.
That's
Austin.
what they do, right?
Watching some SCL.
The views and opinions of Joe do not represent those. All right, next question. Will some contested zones vary in terms of difficulty and overall loot? For instance, one station having relatively fewer enemies and loot compared to another with an abundance of heavily armored enemies and very valuable loot.
Yes, we are alternating some of this based on the contested zone you're in. We also have a very specific one, which we call the Ghost Arena, but don't really want to spoil that yet.
Okay.
But at the same time,
the word arena on there just makes it seem like that's where we're going to be most, like that's where you're Ghost Arena. So that's where you're Ghost Hollow, Ghost Arena. I'm assuming it's going to be pretty much, the word meat grinder was used, right? Like we're just going to go there and we're going to be fighting all the time.
So for us, what is really important when it comes to the reward stuff is that things are actually substantial and unique. What we put in there has to not be widely available, right? So, and that's the thing that we want to really balance out with the rest of the universe to make it worthwhile and to balance it also out between the contested zones themselves.
Yeah, one of the.
I hope they succeed with this. It sounds like they understand the assignment. Let's see what grade they get when we play. You know, that's where I'm at with this. It sounds like they know they need something to lure us in. It sounds like they have some things or things that they think are those things. It sounds like they know they can't be readily available. I will patiently wait to find out.
I think anybody who's played Star Citizen for a while knows that one of the, I'm just going to call it weird. It was one of the weird limitations of the mission system and the game itself was the inability to distribute rewards.
Yeah,
in-game
horrible.
rewards to players. It's one of those things that somehow with the development of everything else and whatnot, it was just always a we'll get to it, and we just never seem to get to it. In 4.0 and beyond, a big chunk of the mission feature team, the stuff like this, has now been going to adding that functionality in there, so that now you saw it with the with the Operation Overdrive and stuff. Now there are things you can do in game and now get rewarded for an item in game. So that kind of technology.
Yeah, but that's not really it. It's like you get it the next day on the website and you log in and it's there,
Expands and continues into asteroid bases, into contested zones, and into things like Ghost Arena that we're not going to talk about, stuff like that. So you're going to see more and more unique things that are rewarded to you through playing the game as development continues to 4.0
Cool.
and beyond and stuff like that. And that's
Love to hear
really
it.
exciting, because I think if I can speak, normally I'm speaking for the devs, but if I can speak for the fans for a while, I think this sense of progression, the sense of I'm doing things and I'm earning things that I can't get anywhere else, it's like this, has been missing from the game for a little while. So it's one of the more exciting aspects.
Yeah, just for a little while.
To me, of 4.0 is this work that we're talking about today, the contested zones and the asteroid bases, because to me, this seems like the birth of the very beginnings, the birth of actual player progression to something greater. And I'm really excited about that. So I hope that's coming across in the ISC in this. And if it's not, I'm sorry I tried.
It is absolutely coming across your intentions, right? And we've talked a lot about intentions with Jared lately, of we intend to deliver 4.0 at X time or whatever. It is fine to have these intentions. I still don't believe or trust you will deliver on any of that until you start doing it, right? So I'm a Star Citizen fan. I really want the game to be a success. I really want it to be good. There's so much about it that can be good and that it hasn't been yet. And I am on this one. You hear the words coming back to you, of the things that you've been yelling about for years. And I it's 2 thumbs up for that. But when I play 4.0, I hope the way I feel comforted with your words, I hope I feel the same comfort while I'm playing, because that's never really happened, right? 324 certainly isn't doing it. So
Next question. What's the ghost thing? Stop being a weenie. Just tell us.
the ghost helmet,
ghost thing?
hopefully.
The ghost.
The supernatural elements.
What's it called?
Ghost Arena.
Ghost Arena.
Oh, that one. I guess. How should I describe it? Do you know Running Man? I guess you do,
Okay,
right?
that's all we'll say. That's enough.
Okay.
That's enough. Cool. I love Running Man. Do contested zones have one main objective,
get it,
or are
but-
there different areas with things to gain from each of them?
I think we learned that there's multiple doors.
Yes. So this ties into what Khan was just saying in terms of progression and rewards. On the kind of smaller scale of a singular contested zone, we
I've
do
never
also
seen the
have
movie, no.
a bit of variety in what you can do and your goals. We kind of have broken it into 3.
It's about a movie about a deadly game show. Okay.
areas. So you have like a short-term goal where you just want to go into a contested zone, you just want to get some loot, kill some enemies, and get out. And that's kind of one quick play style we're looking at. A second one is that maybe you want to complete the entire contested zone, so get to the final reward room, complete the entire thing, and that takes a little bit more effort and maybe coordination and maybe some help. For example, like we have these security doors that require keys, specific keys that you'll have to find from within the dungeon to be able.
Are they going to be specific keys, or are they going to be a key that we look at that has a number and we type the number in?
to progress into the
I'm
deep
assuming that's what it'll be, because they said they're going to use what they have, or it could be the hacking chips reused, maybe.
parts. So that's kind of a second playstyle that we're envisioning. And the third one is, as Khan said, this overall progression where you now have to engage with multiple contested zones, with asteroid bases, and kind of go along this whole flow. And all the rewards are scaled to kind of the effort involved in each of those.
Mopspear in the chat says, I want to know because I want to marry that sandworm.
What does it have
You know,
to do with
Mopspear, if you believe in yourself and you work hard, all things are possible. Except that. Will asteroid bases have any enclosed docks that would handle a capital class ship? For example, a capital class hangar with atmosphere, but with an enclosed zero gravity space. But this is a really specific question. Will you make this very specific thing for this very specific person?
So I probably have to disappoint you in this regard. So the initial set of asteroid bases we are putting out, right? We don't do social spaces,
Hey,
so
Berks.
there's no official landing, so no hangars or landing pads services whatsoever, right? So that will come down later down the line. And even then, if we add the more smaller social spaces like gas stations and so on, it's probably
I need to rehear that.
you in this regard. So the initial set of asteroid bases we are putting out, right? We don't do social spaces, so there's no official landing, so no hangars or landing pads services whatsoever, right?
10 minutes ago, I went on a rant that the asteroid bases are going to take over and fill all the fuel possible. And now we find out that they're not going to have any services whatsoever.
So that will come down later down the
can't.
line. And even then, if we add the more smaller social spaces like gas stations and so on, it's probably more to serve smaller, medium-sized ships, probably not the big capital-sized ships. We might have docking tubes at some of them later on, so that could be your only access point if that's supported for your ship, but probably not. I mean, if you buy in the ship, right, it's like then you have certain stations available to you. That's the fantasy, right? So,
Yep.
Yeah. During the ISC, let's back up. Over the course of the development of this game, we've seen a lot of procedural tools done. The Rastar and stuff that can generate certain layouts for different space stations and everything. In the ISC, we specifically mentioned that the asteroid bases were not procedural. Can you talk to us about why that change was made? Why are the asteroid bases created bespoke? You know, there's that word. There's actually an appropriate reason to use that word there, people. So, you know, you can drink if you want to, but why did we do these by hand instead of using the procedural tools?
I think there's always a balance to be had with how much you do stuff procedural versus how much you want to control the general flow of things. So we're talking like procedural, like in our terms, is used to be a lot like you stitch a room one by one together based on kind of some parameters and logic, but that kind of eliminates our ability to handcraft an experience that flows throughout a multi-room setup, right? So what we're looking at right now instead is hand stitching certain sections together that can combine into kind of like a gameplay bubble, and then utilizing multiple gameplay bubbles that we can then stitch together with this procedural tool, right? So we have a bit more control on the scale of things that is a bit larger than just a room, but accommodates for multiple rooms basically.
And that's in line with with things we've said before. I mean, there are other games out there who very famously everything is procedural, and some of the struggle of that is that nothing is really unique because of that. And no, I'm not talking about the one you're obviously thinking. I'm talking about another one that's older, back from like 2017, 2018. We've always said that we use procedural generation as a tool, not an ends. We use it to help us move forward.
Should we pause and say the problems that you guys have created for yourselves? Should we stop and have that conversation? Because it would be a lot longer than the 10 seconds you just took to talk about Elite Dangerous. Like, I don't know.
We use it to help us flesh out, but as not just the sole creation of a thing. Because we have, and I think if we've demonstrated anything,
it wasn't Elite, it was No Man's Sky.
11 years that ISC, ATV, and everything's been around and stuff like this, is that we have an incredible team of artists. Not just the 3D artists, the 2D artists, the tech artists, the animators. There's all kinds of stuff that gets us the look and feel that we have, and we're never going to. I can't see us ever just fully handing that over to procedural generation, generative AI, anything else. We might use these things as tools, again, to help flesh out the other areas once we've designed the critical path and the second critical path and the third critical path, and just using it to flesh out some stuff, as you said. But that's been a hallmark. That's been what we've been saying about procedural tools from the very beginning. So it's nice to see that it's, or here anyway, that it's still the case.
It's a Jared heavy episode.
Will we be able to manipulate the environment of contested zones, like turn on and off gravity, life support, turrets, doors, stuff like that?
Not right now from the get-go, right? It's something that can become more interesting once resource network hits. So yeah.
Doesn't resource network hit in 4.0?
Not initially.
I guess they need it in-game first, and then they do it?
Though that said, we
just for ships? No. Go watch ISC this week.
Have doors with keycards.
Not just for ships.
So there's
and fuses.
So there's some elements where you can already manipulate, but I guess what players might have more in mind with these systems that.
Sorry, chat. You were talking over them. I didn't talk over them. You did.
It's doors.
They answered it.
So yeah, not initially. Though that said, we have doors with keycards. So there's
fuses.
So there's some elements where you can already manipulate, but I guess what players might have more in mind with these systems that you can manipulate, like power resources and all these things. We'd really love to implement them once we have the systems available to us.
Now, you said something there, and I want to make sure that we get some clarity on that. At this moment, the moment that we're recording, what day is this? Friday. What's the date? As of Friday, August 16th, Resource Network is scheduled for release in 4.0. These things are scheduled for release in 4.0. When Manuel says when that stuff is in, when that stuff's ready, he means when it's up and running and functional for him to utilize it in the design of this experience.
Is it not
because
in game
these
dev?
experiences are being developed concurrently, and so like this, we can't have them sitting around waiting. You can't have asteroid bases sitting around waiting for work on Resource Network to come along. So the first version will use little pieces of it, like you said, the key cards and the fuses and stuff like that. But as things progress, 4 whatever after that, it's like this. Then as the feature hardens and gets more developed and stuff, we'll be able to utilize more and more aspects of that. You've already seen, if you watched ISC yesterday, some of the locations teams are already using aspects of the resource networking system for their charge and drain stuff and for the different homesteads and habitats and stuff like that. So it's just a question of, do we want to wait, or do we want to put out a first version that can do all of these other things and then add that later? And that's what he's talking about here.
Okay.
So, exactly. I think it would be, or like we all think it would be a shame holding on with the asteroid bases and contested zones. It's already a playable content that works without the resource network already, right? So it's like, why wait? Get it out in the hands of players, have them play. Also getting feedback, right, and see like how players engage with the environment.
Yeah, that's
fair. And how we can improve upon that. And then we already have also ideas like how we can implement or like
and add Resource Network.
once the systems are more refined.
Eagle 6. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to add on a little bit as well. I think it's worth adding that we have definitely viewed the contested zone asteroid bases a little differently to past things we've put out. We want these locations to kind of stand alone, like as themselves, be a bit more sandboxy and have more interactable elements in them. And the resource network that will eventually come is a part of that. But things like the key cards and the security doors and traps and things, we're trying to push more of that into the environment to make them.
Eagle 6 is definitely has been in this chat before, so I can only imagine what he was going to say.
Kind of be more standalone and exist as a space that you can interact with and have gameplay in. Yeah.
I was going to say, Eagle 6 Airsoft says it's not ISC Live without 20 disclaimers. Well, it's not ISC Live at all. But yeah, no, there's lots of disclaimers because I've been doing this for 10 years. And there's nothing, they're honest to God, the absolute worst thing in my entire life. Yeah, I'm not going to qualify that. It is the worst thing in my life, is watching somebody take something from one of my programs and misunderstand it. Not maliciously, not the people who twist things because they're looking for clicks or whatever. I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about the good, the good people who simply heard something and took it a certain way, and that's not the way it's going to be. And then I watch that person get excited. I watch that person get excited, and I watch that person get hyped. I watch that person get so hopeful for a thing that's not actually going to happen the way that they think we said it, because we didn't take 10, 15, 20 seconds to clarify it, to disclaim.
I'm going to turn off the music because it's you get demonetized with these. Oh, you know what? This one was a good one, actually. This one wasn't even a bad one. Which one? I think this one 321 might have been pretty rough. No, that was a good one. That one's that mostly showed the gameplay. This one's good. Like Siege of Orison. Oh yeah, look at that. Because I've ever punched an NPC in the face before. So I'm not doing any of this stuff just for clicks, like Jared's saying. I don't think he's even talking about me necessarily. But yeah, it's like you say one thing and you do another, so it makes what you're saying not really mean anything. You know?
Disclaimer. So yeah, there are about 20 or so disclaimers and clarifications on SCL every week. And that's part of my responsibility, not just to you, but to the developers, to make sure that the things that they say are properly understood and in the proper context. And
what about
if I
the things
didn't,
you show?
There'd probably be 3 more people in the chat jumping on me for not clarifying. So I'll take the hit. I'll take the.
Yeah, I mean, I prefer the disclaimers. I'm not shitting, just to be clear, I'm not shitting on the disclaimers. I'm often asking for, hey, can you clarify that? Can you give us more context into what you were saying? What was the video you showed on ISC real, or was it more of the bullshit that you show to make things look better than they actually are?
Little hit for, there's too many disclaimers and whatnot, because ultimately the alternative is far worse.
Yes, exactly.
All right. We've been sort of dancing around this, and I don't know how much you're going to be able to get into it.
But it's disingenuous to say that you're upset when people get hopeful about something. That's not going to happen when you do it every single week.
But I'm going to go ahead and ask you.
Every week.
What kind of rewards are there from the contested zones?
Oh
Is
my
there a
God.
shared PvP mission item to recover, or are there loot small enough to carry in a backpack, for example? Obviously,
Are they going to answer
we don't
it?
want to spoil everything. We
Spoil
still want
something?
some level of discovery, but as much as you can share, what are
Before they say anything, I have to calm myself down. It's not going to be good. It's going to be cosmetics or something. It won't be good. Let me lower my expectations as low as possible so maybe I get happy with something that they say. Lower the expectations. It will not be a ship token. It will not be a ship token. It will not be a ship token. Please do not be a ship token. Please do not be a ship token.
what are people working towards in a contested zone?
I guess I can give some examples. So for the first part, what kind of rewards you're going to get is first, our first step is to make things unavailable, like widely unavailable, something that you just can't not get from the shops in Stanton or in Pyro. It has to be something that is only be retrievable right here. And what we're looking at right now, after talking with system design about it and other people, is that ship components are one of the big steps like that. Like military, stealth class, or even competition class ship components will be made exclusive in some capacity, certain parts of it, and only be widely available or
certain variants
exclusively
of them.
available. Yeah, exclusively available in reward rooms or in the final.
That's a chair punch of excitement. Holy shit. Actual loot, they actually figured it out. Oh my god.
Let's call it the grand prize.
Yeah. I'm gonna stop you there. That's plenty.
Okay.
We don't want to share everything, but yes, I'm taking next week off, and then I'm in Germany the following week to film with Torsten and the gang there about resource networking. And one of the neat talking points, and I think I feel like I actually said this last week, but I'll say it this week too. You might remember an old series of articles that John Crew and I wrote back when I was a community manager. 2016, 2017. I've been a community manager in 5 or 6 years. But back then we wrote a series of articles.
They do it. I still don't think they're going to do it. They're gonna. Here's where I'm happy they understand. They're gonna screw it up somehow. Hopefully they don't screw it up too bad. That's where I'm at right now. I'm gonna keep those expectations at the absolute bottom. I'm keeping them bottled down. I can't believe they're putting they said that they want to differentiate military competition and stealth, and they're going to give new variants of them at these locations. They're finally understanding the concept. But we heard earlier there's going to be 5 of these, so they're going to be easy to farm. 100 players per server. You're going to be able to farm these by yourself, maybe things like that. So I'm already getting a little worried about it. But yeah. One person in chat keeps saying, let them cook. Again, it is either undercooked or it's burnt to a crisp. They have never made anything they have not got a Michelin star. They haven't even gotten a good review in the newspaper yet. All right? So please stop saying that. It's dumb. And again, let me cope in the way I want to cope in the video. Let me or in the video. I'm reading what you said. You said there's something later in the video. Let me cope the way I need to deal with this bullshit of this game. The way I'm coping is I'm pushing down all of my excitement because every time I've gotten excited, I mean, guys, CitizenCon last year, I don't think I've ever been so high on the game because of the way they communicated to us. And then they did not deliver on that communication yet. They don't have a lot of time yet to do it. And that's where I'm at right now, is I can't listen to things anymore. I got to experience them, right? I need to experience those things. I can't listen to them. So hopefully when I experience them, they're really good. But I'm going to go into it assuming that they're going to fuck this up in some way.
For the website called The Shipyard, where we broke down basically the overall plan for how ships are supposed to work. And one of the things we talked about there.
And Jared's ignoring the fact that they stopped doing it because it was a horrible idea, and we held them accountable for everything they said there, and they didn't exactly deliver everything exactly to the T on those, and members of the community got mad. This is one of the things I never got mad about, really, but yeah.
Was the classifications of materials, not just in quality, but in type, military, competition, luxury, stuff like that. So this.
He said classification of materials, but that would be better versions, like better grade titanium. That's how I understood that, but I think he just means components in this case. So yeah, let's assume it's a misspoke because he's definitely talking about components, right? So we'll have to see. Maybe it's a crafting thing that there's you get better at crafting with certain things. Yeah, like purity level. I was thinking purity levels when he said that. Let's let him speak himself again. Let's listen to it and let's not make any assumptions and let's just hear it again.
Basically the overall plan for how ships are supposed to work. And one of the things we talked about there was the classifications of materials, not just in quality, but in type, military, competition, luxury, stuff like that. So this, along with Resource Network,
just components.
And I'm not going to go into it too much here because we've got the episode coming, is the beginning of that realization of multiple ship components that are actually tuned to different abilities and tuned to different performance thresholds and stuff. So after 4.0 is where the world of, okay, my M50 behaves like this, but I'm going to rip this out and I'm going to rip this out and I'm going to go do a contested zone. I'm going to get this. I'm going to pop that in. I'm going to go to an asteroid base and get this. I'm going to pop that in. And now my M50 behaves differently than the stock thing that comes off the market. 4.0 is where the start of that begins to happen. And I'm, like I said, as the co-author of the Shipyard articles with John Cruise so many years ago, it's one of those things that I've been waiting, which is why I'm.
Sounds good. Sounds great, actually. Sounds amazing.
You brought it up, so
and that's where we'll leave it. Sounds cool. All
right.
I hope I didn't spoil too much.
Nope, that was just enough. That was just enough. You did good, Con.
Yeah. I'm glad he said that.
Tell us everything else. No,
I am now very much going to be grinding Arena Commander like a fucking fiend.
No, but yeah, to the second part of the question about how we extracted freight elevators. It's not just going to be backpacks or something that you can carry, right? There's going to be freight elevators inside this zone that are positioned in a way where you can extract certain things in a more efficient manner.
Okay.
Corn 44's TV says, say it again.
I don't know if I like that much, but hopefully, hey, they're level designers.
Listening.
I want to get out with it, you know?
Nothing. I'm just.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes I appreciate a solid low-level troll. Are asteroid bases, as gameplay locations, a precursor in test for player-owned asteroid bases, or are there no connections to be drawn?
Jared?
Careful. Manuel?
No,
Careful.
Not yet, at least at the moment. So they're currently designed as purely focused for gameplay and content. First and foremost.
Yes. That is all they're intended for at this time.
Get ready for it, guys. Wow. Citizens Con is going to be so cool. They're going to show you a base that you could build yourself. Did you notice I stopped talking there? They're going to show it to you. And that's it. Yeah, CitizenCon, very, very cool. Let's do the same thing again that we did last year. I don't want to be this negative. I don't want to be this negative. I don't want to feel this way. I want to love it. I want to be happy. 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 I can't express it enough. Nobody thinks that's the case. People think I'm the way I am for a reason. I am not. I want to be happy. I want to be happy. chat. But they can look at his face. He's so happy. Look at him. Look, I want to be him. I want to be like this. Look at how happy he is. I can't be that way because they keep doing this. They keep doing this. And I thought it was the end of it last year. I thought it was the end last year, and they're still doing it. I am not falling for this bullshit anymore. Ever again. I will never fall for this shit ever again.
Watch CitizenCon.
Yeah, see? No shit.
That's actually not a bad asteroid basis, but I just meant I shouldn't have even tied those two together. That's not fair to tie those two together, but you should watch CitizenCon. How do you envision contested zones evolving over time to prevent them from becoming static content?
Well, yeah, totally. I mean, there's a live.
Since when is PvP ever static content? People play the same Call of Duty maps over and over and over again because every single time they're different. This is like such a simple answer. It's a PvP zone
game, so we will continuously update.
It's not just PvP, but
these
yeah.
places with anything.
SPK, Ghost Hollow, JT, Wake all suck now. Why? They don't suck because of the way they're designed. They don't suck because of the way they're designed, Burks. They don't suck because of the level design. They don't suck because of where they're located. They don't suck because of how you interact with them. Why do they suck, guys? They suck because the reward sucks. They figured that out here. Hopefully, they go back and apply those things there. I mean, let me tell you something. I did Ghost Hollow yesterday in Eve. I raided a bank in Eve. And it took a certain amount of time, and it alerts to people in the area that you're raiding it. And you either steal their money and get out, or they come and kill you for it. It's awesome because the money actually matters in Eve. You need it, right? In this game, it doesn't yet. So Ghost Hollow is not an Eve. It's called ESS rating or whatever. It's very similar to that. And it was awesome. But it's awesome because the reward felt good. And it gets your heart pounding that somebody might be coming, right? In Star Citizen, it's like, well, if somebody comes, I die, I don't lose anything. You know, I lose my ship and everything in Eve and stuff like that, right? So there's more of those heart-pounding moments. There's a lot of factors that make SPK, Ghost Hollow, and Wake, and all these other places not enjoyable. And one of those factors they've solved. Well, they verbally are solving. We'll see if they actually solve it in practice, is the reward. But after that, it's what do I lose? Do I just lose the reward I could have gotten? Or am I losing the gear that I'm going in with and things like that, right? So I don't know if it'll deliver, but that's how I feel about those locations. All of those locations in practice, in like this, with a couple of changes, would be very popular places in the game right now if the rewards were good and if what you lost was of value, because they would be PvP zones, and what you would be looting would have a ton of value as well, right? So that's what we're missing.
Any new items that might be popping up, any new systems.
You know?
I mean, we have to maintain.
You go into a raid, you kill a guy, and he's got a level whatever, rig or plate carrier or whatever the fuck you know, helmets, things like that, whatever you would get. That's kind of the vibe that I'm going with there.
And we are constantly, as level designers, going back to old locations and giving them an upgrade when some change to a system comes up, right? So the same would apply here for the contested zones as well.
Right. Cool. As something like pet copions does become available to players and stuff like that, you know, they'll have to revisit the balance of that as the light amplification scopes that are scheduled to arrive in 4.0 and stuff. I'm sure that had to change a couple things with, we thought that was a dark corner. Not anymore. Stuff like that. So yeah, so it's
Zach said the light amplification scopes, if it is pitch black, they don't work. So I wonder if they utilize this in these zones at all.
You make a really great point, Con. I'm grateful that you brought it up. It's every time a new gameplay system comes online and stuff like that, there's always something that has to get revisited and has to be reiterated upon in order to incorporate that stuff in. And these will be no different.
Yeah.
Will contested zones have any time pressures that player must manage, or can players just take their time?
There's going to be time pressures. Specific locations even have timed gates. So during these timers, we attract players to be there. Other times, certain things will be locked, so there's no point in going there. So yeah, there's going to be timed gates. The other added pressure is just the population that exists there, right? Like you won't be able to fully eliminate the static AI population or the traps that just exist in this space. So there's a physical pressure, and then there's also the other side with timed gates.
Yeah, that kind of ties back to early discussions about PvP and camping as well. That we want the PvE environment to be constantly pushing against the players as well. So yes, you could find a loot box, loot it, and then try and stay there to see if you can loot it again later. But we would then want the environment to be pushing back on you for respawning enemies, patrolling enemies, to really not allow that.
I was looking at this. You said timed, and I had
Paseo said when I said let them cook, it was for the bit where it's sounding like these 5 won't all be running at the same time. It seems they want to run them like various jump town locations. I didn't get that from what he just said. Did anybody else?
I just had terrible flashbacks. I was at Blizzard when we did the Gates of Encourage, and this time, the first timed event, and told everybody in Azeroth to go to one place at the exact same time, and what that did to performance and stuff like this. This isn't going to be the same thing, right? A timed event, and suddenly we're going to make everybody go to one of 5 places, or
it will be a bit more loose than that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think Jared just spoiled it there. He said 1 of 5 places. There you go.
I still have trauma. It's 20 years ago. Oh my gosh, it's 20 years ago. Well, it's 19 since Encourage, but Tech Zulu says, Jared's in a studio and the others are on webcams. I'm not in a studio. I'm in outer space. See? I'm in outer space. No, the other guys are in Germany. And it's not very cost effective to fly 3 people over here just to do an hour-long show. We do try not to spend money where we don't have to.
I want that too. Why don't we have cool props?
You got med pens.
I could tell you, but the answer would not make you happy.
True. Actually, you were in Manchester recently, Manuel. You should have, grabbed a couple, right?
I mean, I'm not sure if Jared counted all his helmets, right?
For both asteroid bases and contested zones, we're almost out of time. How varied will they be from base to base? 6.
Sorry?
I said, for asteroid bases and contested zones, how varied are they? We know there's about 5 of this and whatever this. Are they substantially different? Are they variations on a theme? What are we talking about as far as variation?
Jared's trying to get this out of them, and they are making it difficult.
For asteroid bases, we're working on 3 variants. So, like Manuel mentioned earlier, we got the encounter variant, we got a more explorative variant, which has a lot more like of an abandoned theme to it. And then we got kind of the contested zone. It's not specifically contested zone, but it is a location that ties to the overall progression that we are planning for.
Okay. And last question. We mentioned this is lots of MMOs going back to the end of the beginning of time here, and make no mistake, Star Citizen is an MMO. Our single player experience is Squadron 42, or the persistent universe is our multiplayer experience. That's not to say that there isn't a way to make your living as a solo player, but I mean, the overwhelming majority of the game is designed for a multiplayer experience. That's why we have a single player and a multiplayer. Where was I going with this? Oh, for a lot of MMOs,
where are you going?
dungeons are normal occurrence. Everything has some area that counts as their dungeon. Some they go in here. There's an entrance. There's a progression through. There's mobs to fight. There's an occasional boss. We talked a little bit about your desire for boss fights, John, when we filmed ISC. This last question says, what lessons, if any, from other games have informed your approach to creating what is our first version of that kind of experience with asteroid bases and contested
That's a good
zones?
question.
What have you learned from other games?
So when we first started looking into this and we were in kind of pre-production, we obviously looked at all current MMO, dungeons. I think between the level designers, we kind of played a lot of them. So, WoW, Final Fantasy 14, all the obvious ones. And we obviously looked into the dungeons and how we could apply what they have to what we tried. And we did originally kind of internally call them open dungeons. And the idea was to have a kind of traditional experience of, there's a start and an end. It gets harder the deeper you get. There are packs of enemies. But because we are Star Citizen and we are a unique MMO in that, these are open, we kind of looked more to the old school MMOs for a bit more of where to pull from, like EverQuest, and which had those open space dungeons where lots of players could go in.
How are you going to say EverQuest and not Ultima Online? God damn it.
So we kind of pulled on that thread a little bit. And then we also looked at, in terms of like map layout designs, we were pulling from like Guild Wars 2 and things where we looked at how they laid out their dungeons, the branches and the way to move players around the space. So we did pull from, existing and old MMOs.
Lessons.
But at the same time...
You're not talking about floor plans. You're talking lessons.
No, sorry, yeah, I should clarify. Lessons, yes.
You're going to get a lawyer busting through my door here in 5 minutes.
No, we certainly have our unique layouts. Yes, the lessons we pulled from these and our experiences playing them as to what we could apply to what we were doing. And yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that said, if you want to build Karazhan in Star Citizen, I'm all for it. Let's fight Little Red Riding Hood. Let's do it.
I mean, we already have Ghosts, so yeah, why not have Karazhan as well?
All right. Anybody else want to add to that? Con, Manuel?
I mean, pretty much what John said, right? It's like we need to. We are building something that we think is fun in the first iteration, and like also like as we are like being vivid MMO players as well, and we build something that we think fits the game a lot. But obviously, we need to find out like. We want to know about the play experience and see their reactions and what they like and what they don't like about it, so we can refine the existing ones and we can make the new ones we're working on like even better and so on.
Please take what this man is saying and focus on what he's saying more than anybody else has said anything on this show. He is saying, to me at least, we are putting out this feature in an incomplete tier 0 state because we want to see you, not an incomplete, like I'm not trying to downplay it or make it sound bad. I'm actually think this is great. We are putting this out there in a we just want your feedback. A non-final, very non-final state. We just want your feedback, work in progress, incomplete, whatever. Specifically with the intention of gathering your feedback and making it better. No, half-assed is negative. Unrefined is a good word. Janky as fuck, that's the whole game. That is a guarantee. That's obvious. But I think the idea here is to gather feedback to actually make them. And I will respect anybody who doesn't like to hear that. Because it's year 13. We're tired. tired. So hopefully that iteration happens very quickly, soon after. So if I was to beg for anything from CIG, is if you're going to do tier 0, do tier 0 with the ability to iterate on it quite quickly based on our feedback. Be ready to be very, I guess for lack of a better word, agile and yeah, be able to act on that feedback as quickly as possible. And yeah, he was just being realistic. Let's try some stuff. Let's see what happens. And based off of what you do, we're going to make the actual things. And it's like, okay, yeah, that sounds good. If it sounds good if it wasn't 2024. You know what I mean? If this was 2014, that would still be like an acceptable thing to say. And it still is in 2024, but it's much harder to swallow. It's a much harder pill to swallow. That's where I'm getting at. So I hope that they make that pill a little bit easier to swallow and iterate on those things very quickly based on what we do and feel and all that stuff.
It's like, I think with all the great games, right? It's like they're building something and then see what the players like in particular for like their game bubble, and then trying to make that better.
That's a great point. We're in a position that other games don't get. We don't have to, and this will upset certain people and a certain selection of people, and that's okay. It's the truth, and if it upsets, it upsets. We don't have to figure every single thing out ahead of time. Because we run a live environment in the middle of our development, we can afford to test. We can afford to put a thing out there and try it. And instead of assuming that people will react this and assuming people will react like that and assuming people will like this and assuming people will hate that, instead of assuming, we can actually put these things out there and test them and get actual feedback.
He's right. He's 100% right. But when you tie everything else to all the other anchors that CIG has tied to themselves and all the other dumb shit that they've done that have prevented this from being as smooth of a process as possible, that's when we look at them and go, and like just shake your head and like, oh, here we go again, you know? It's because of everything else. It's not because of what he's saying, right?
Back and go, okay. So that wasn't as bad as we thought it was. So there's something there. This didn't work the way that we thought it was. So we can move away from that. And that's been a hallmark of Star Citizen's development since the PU began in 2015. So we have this double-edged sword that definitely cuts both ways.
They don't have a plan for 1.0 after a decade. He's not right. How do you know they don't have a plan for 1.0?
Where we can use the virtue of our live environment in the middle of our development.
We know they're going to change that
test
plan.
Certain things that other games
they
might
have a
not
plan, probably.
Even ever attempt. But at the same time, it means that there are a lot of decisions that sometimes come out, and there are plenty of players who are scratching their heads, and they're like, "That was never going to work," and whatnot. It's like, and that's certainly an opinion, and it might even have been the right one. But we don't have to guess. We can afford to test and try out, and that's a benefit, ultimately a benefit to our project.
It's not, because you don't iterate on it. You don't iterate on anything. You barely ever take that feedback and deliver it in a reasonable and fast time. Oh wow, okay, that's a crazy move.
And I really liked your answer there, Manuel. So
Buffalo, New York. I'm sorry. I hope it's for good reasons. I can't hear that answer and accept it with 100% of my heart. Right? He's right. He's right. If you stare at that statement in a vacuum, he's right. But when you look at everything else, he's so wrong, and this has been the wrong way to do it. Right? That's what it is. Oh yeah, you'll have more room in Buffalo, that's for sure. But that's how I feel, is when you take it from the perspective of, we got feedback on this feature here, and we haven't done anything with it for years, then this doesn't work, right? So again, if you take a feature, you grab the feedback, and you bring it into that tier 1 state to where it's actually supposed to be, where, yeah, you can afford to not do it initially, but you got to do it right after and get it into at least a 1, you know? And there's too many things that sit there in the tier 0 hell. And it's not because, oh, we looked at this and it didn't work, so we're just going to leave it there. We looked at this, it didn't work, we got a bunch of feedback, and we didn't action the feedback. That's my issue with it.
That was just me saying I really like your answer. Folks, that's it. Thanks for watching another episode of Star Citizen Live. What's it called? Contested Zones and Asteroid Bases? I remembered it. If you haven't already, check out yesterday's Inside Star Citizen about the pyro system and non-combat shooty gameplay stuff. You know, everybody's got this idea that pyro is just carnage and chaos, but it's not just.
They showed us like NPC locations.
There's more stuff too.
ISC.
So check out ISC from yesterday. Next week, SEO will be off. I'm gone for the entire week because it's my birthday.
Happy birthday.
I'm old. ISC is we're going to be airing. I'll just be honest with you. We're going to be airing a segment that we shot more than a year and a half ago. We shot it for a last Ship Showdown and didn't use it, so we're using it this week while I'm gone. It's a retrospective look back at the amazing contributions of superstar concept artist Gavin Rothery. If you've never seen him or heard of him or whatever, we think you're going to love him. He's one of my dear favorite people that work on the project, responsible for more spacecraft and vehicles than any single human being in Star Citizen. So he's got quite.
Anytime he's been on a show, he's been really well spoken as well. So it might actually be a good episode, even though it's one of the kind of ship sail focus
By the legacy stuff there. So you can check that out if you want. And then we're back in 2 weeks, or ISC. We're going back to pyro. We're going back to all the combat and carnage and chaos with a few new elements that you may not be suspecting. So check that out.
Okay,
we're going to check out Xenothreat's home turf. And that's pretty
home
cool.
turf as well. Cool.
Let's just say they do not clean up after themselves.
Yeah, no shit. The whole place is filled with garbage.
Will be a surprise to no one.
Yeah.
So for Star Citizen Live, I'm Jared. That was Con. That was Manuel. That was John. That's David and Pete on the buttons over there. Thanks for watching. Take care. Keep an eye out on PTU for updates on 324. Vote.
He didn't know at the time that the patch wouldn't work, and it's the only time the PTU's been down outside of Evo.
Voting for Ship Showdown should be underway. Be sure you vote on which ship gets whatever the prizes and stuff are this year. I should have looked it up before the show. Remember that guy earlier in the show that said this can't be live? It was too professional. Wow. Not my show. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care. Try not to burn everything down while I'm gone for a week. Bye.
All right. Oh. There were no lows of that episode, really. But the highs I'm trying to keep down. Because that was, they said something I have been waiting for since I can remember. I can't think of a time that I haven't wanted to see a ship component in a loot container. I can't think of a time before that. I just think they're going to somehow find a way to ruin it for me. So we'll see. It's my coping mechanism, but I think you could tell deep down I'm excited about it, and we'll leave it there.